Welcome to Convos with Cody. I'm Cody Malloy. I'm a lawyer. I live in Toronto. I'm 33 years old and I started my own law practice 2 years ago. So I officially became an entrepreneur 2 years ago. The best decision that I ever made to go out on my own and bet on myself. It's funny because I commonly hear that expression to bet on yourself. And before I started my own company, I thought that the concept of betting on yourself meant that one day you would see this massive payoff, this massive reward, almost like balloons coming and confetti, and you achieve this goal. And then I realized that betting on yourself is a daily bet. It's something that you do every single day, and the goalposts just keep moving. So betting on yourself is something that you have to continuously work on. And I think it can also be a trap because if you're not careful, it will just never end. I'm going to admit I'm proud of myself for doing this because I have been saying that I'm going to do a podcast for too long now. I did a trial about a year ago with a bunch of my friends when I was on a trip in Norway, and I posted them to my YouTube channel, I would say in the fall of 25. And then life happened and I didn't know which direction I wanted to head in. And eventually I couldn't bring myself to do it because I couldn't come up with a name that I was happy with. So if you laugh at the name Convos with Cody, if you laugh at the artwork that I chose, it's okay because I'm not that happy with it either. And I'm probably going to hate it a week from now. Or who knows, maybe I'll like it. But the point is, I said to myself, what a pathetic excuse for not taking action because you can't come up with a fucking name for your podcast. Who cares? I can always change it. That is not what's important. What's important is the reps of getting better at something. And I'm going to be honest more so with myself because I don't know if anyone's ever going to listen to this. But I know in my head that I can be an incredible podcaster. It's something that I consume a lot on a daily basis. And I think that part of what I'm going to do is share other people's episodes I listen to that maybe someone else could take some value out of. So I don't particularly have a plan with this. I have no plan for how frequently I will post episodes, but I realize that volume matters now. Of course, quality does matter. I'm not suggesting that quality for content creation doesn't matter, but to a point, because the obsession with over editing, color grading and cutting, and if I overspeak, look, the only way that this is going to work, especially in the early stages, is volume. So the editing on these is not going to be perfect. I may misspeak. I'm not going to worry about cutting it all out because in the grand scheme of everything, it doesn't matter. The purpose of this episode is honestly just to do it. And I have my computer down under the camera. I made some notes, some bullet points of some subjects that I want to touch on. I have no idea if this is what I'll do every time. I primarily want to do podcasts with guests, and I have a lot of people that I've kind of floated it to that I know will come on. I have a long list of people that I know if I ask, or I'm fairly certain if I ask, they will come on, and I think that other people will enjoy listening to them. The thing that I love about podcasts is I learn so much. And yes, it's entertainment too, don't get me wrong. I laugh my ass off at every Rogan episode, but the things that I learn from a lot of people, especially in terms of business, or I'm a big space nerd, so I love listening to about astronomy and aliens or ancient civilizations. I mean, it's just endless with things that you can learn from podcasts. And because I consume so many podcasts, I listen to them all in 2x speed. I used to listen to them more quickly, but now I take notes and stuff sometimes if I don't want to forget something that was maybe mentioned. So 2 times speed is good enough. But I was just sick of procrastinating, and I am happy that today I finally took this action to shoot this. And just yesterday, I got myself on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and I'll be honest, it was rather strange seeing a picture of my face on my phone from Spotify. And I know that to start, not many people are going to listen to this. Who knows? Maybe no one will end up listening to this at all. That's a possibility. But with conviction, I can tell you that I don't think that's going to be the case. I know that I can become an incredibly successful podcaster eventually, and I think it's something that I'll just get obsessed with and run with. I now realize that there's a siren outside. I don't know if you can hear that. I don't know if my microphone's picking it up. But okay, the fire truck's gone by. So again, low editing. So I'm just going to keep this very simple. So I have a few points that I want to address. And I guess this would technically, I think, be episode 9. But I would say it's really, well, it's the first real episode of me doing it by myself. So right now I'm doing a public speaking challenge on my social media. So it was started by a guy by the name of Michael Smoke, who, to be honest with you, is one of my favorite content creators. And I mean, kudos to this guy. He's 5 years younger than me. He's 28. And he has blown up, especially, I would say, in the last 6 months. But he's been going on for 3 years now. And he has been preaching how, I mean, this guy started making selfie videos with his phone in the car, just posting every day. And this guy has built up a 3+ million follower subscriber account across all the platforms that he uses. And his dad passed away almost a year and a half ago. And he, after following him for, I would say, over a year and listening to him talk about how you have to do volume and you just got to speak and put yourself out there and you never know what can happen, I eventually said to myself, why am I not doing this? I mean, I've seen him repost enough people that have said that it changed their lives. And I mean, look, I think that indirectly, so today, day 20 is what I'm on. I'm doing the full 100 days. So I'm a fifth of the way there. And I should say the rules are, well, it's pretty simple, but you're supposed to talk for 60 seconds at least, and you can't cut the video. So if you screw up or whatever, you just leave it. And you're just supposed to get better at communicating and making your point. So I actually have a few thoughts about the speaking challenge so far. I just posted my 20th video of it before I started recording this. And I actually find, and I've seen some other content creators talk about this too, that putting material out there, especially frequently, is almost a form of self-therapy. And I see what they mean. It almost feels good putting my thoughts out into the universe. And I made a joke because as I said, I just got myself on Spotify yesterday, and I sent it to just a couple friends to just kind of say, I'm on Spotify, but I haven't shared it to my socials or anything yet. And a couple of my friends said that they actually listened to some of my episodes, which I had put up on my YouTube channel, as I said, well, not a year ago, but we'll just say 9 months ago, starting around 9 months ago. And it felt so surreal that my friends, some of them replied and said, one of them replied and said, oh, I listened to your episode when I was driving around doing errands. And part of me couldn't believe it, that someone would actually take the time of their day to listen to a conversation that I had with someone. But I made a joke when I found out that my friends were listening to it, and I said, sometimes when you do this stuff, especially like in the early stages, you might feel like you're speaking into the abyss a bit, and you don't know who's actually listening. And I said, it's almost like trying to make contact with aliens. I feel like I'm just constantly putting stuff into the universe. And I know your expectations have to be very low at first, and not many people are going to support you or listen to you or pay attention to you. And you're constantly putting these signals out there trying to make contact with aliens, and you finally get something back. So that's just kind of the way I felt when one of my friends said that they had listened to the episode, and it did give me a very good feeling inside. So especially if you're one of my friends and you're someone that I know, whether it's a podcast episode or a video that I put out there, honestly, you telling me, even if you don't want to put a public comment or anything, just privately saying, hey, I listened to this or whatever, and it had this effect X, Y, Z on me, I would appreciate hearing that. It's good to know that what you communicate can affect other people. And I have another friend that I will send this to. I post a lot on LinkedIn, although my traction on LinkedIn hasn't been great, to be blunt. But this one friend in mind told me that what I put on LinkedIn, because he doesn't use Instagram and other things, resonates with him a lot in terms of the messaging. And that's, I guess, maybe the frustrating thing is that I know the substance of my messaging is good. It's just getting people to actually pay attention and listen to it or read it or whatever the medium is very hard. But that doesn't mean it's impossible. So this is, I guess you could say, I mean, it's not really day one, but it's kind of a restart, day one, of me trying to figure out how I can get people to pay attention more. What I like, and I'm so good on this speaking challenge, is it forces you to figure out how to deal with rejection. Because let's face it, every time that I put a video out there, and I just also see now, again, like I'm not worried about lighting and stuff, but I'm using natural light through my blinds right now, and I can see that it's kind of looking all weird. But anyway, I don't care, because most people will just listen to this anyway and not actually watch. But what I was saying is putting a new video out every day makes me face rejection. Like and what I mean by that is every time I put a video out, my audience is either going to like it and engage with it, and it's going to get pushed to the platform, or it won't get that many views and it will get, quote, rejected. And as an entrepreneur, you have to get used to no. You have to get used to being rejected. And it's actually a superpower when you figure out how to deal with it. And by posting a video every day, yeah, some do better than others. If it doesn't work, you don't have time to dwell on it. You learn from maybe what didn't work, and you're moving on to the next video. And who cares, right? No becomes easier to deal with when you expose yourself to it more. When I was younger, I definitely felt that maybe I was helping myself by not exposing myself to rejection, just in different situations, and you could maybe interchange rejection with, quote, failure. So whether it's in sports or social settings or whatever it might be. And I realized that I was actually doing myself such a disservice, because you think that you're protecting your ego, but you're actually hurting it. So this is me getting my reps in. I've made the decision that I'd rather have a bias for action. I would rather fail or make a mistake because of something that I did as opposed to something I didn't do. Something that bothers me a lot is the what if. What if I had asked this person this question? What if I had done this thing? What if I had tried this thing? And that's just something that I plan to roll with, is accepting the fact that it's not always going to work out, but as long as I learn from it, that's all that matters. I typically like to say to people, it's not a mistake as long as you learn from it. So a few other things that I wanted to touch on just regarding the speaking challenge. There is a bullet point I actually am taking from Michael Smoke, and he discussed how, I'm paraphrasing, but your brain would prefer a familiar hell versus an uncomplicated heaven. And I think that I actually meant in that bullet point a familiar hell versus an unfamiliar heaven. That's what I meant. Okay, so I and I'm not even going to take this out just to show you how raw I'm going to keep this. So what that means is it's regarding your comfort zone. So your brain likes to keep you in your comfort zone, and your brain would rather keep you stuck in something that's comfortable but you're maybe not happy with, versus something that's uncomfortable and new but could be better. So that's the unfamiliar heaven. Again, I made a typo. And I did a video about this recently, but another thing that I've learned is I used to think that in order to be confident, you couldn't be scared. So when you're trying to talk yourself into doing something, or it's your turn in the game to take your at bat or whatever it is, that you had to go up there being fearless. And I realized I was incredibly wrong about that. I heard Tony Robbins say in a video recently that courage means that you're scared shitless, but you do it anyway. And that's true. Your favorite music artist, before they go out for a concert, they're scared shitless to an extent. And it's all about channeling that nervous energy and converting it into positive energy. And that's how the greats do it. And that's how I'm trying to make myself better. I was tired of paralysis by perfection, which again is something that has prevented me from reaching for this podcast dream of mine. And those days are done. But that's because I took action here today. I don't know if maybe one person will ever listen to this podcast episode, but I would love for you to take some value out of this. But I get a lot of value out of this, and knowing that I've done what I can today to get this started. And lastly, on the note of the speaking challenge, I've realized that you have to minimize, and I am actually loosely quoting Michael again, but to minimize the friction between me conceiving an idea and putting it out to the world. And that's what I'm going to do with this podcast. Again, low editing. I'm not going to worry about the time, and when I have guests on, that might be a little different, but it's getting the ideas out there and getting people used to maybe hearing me. And I mean, I love dialogue. It's not just, I don't actually like hearing myself talk. I don't like hearing my voice, but what I do love is trying to create dialogue with people. And if anything ever resonates with you, like, as I said, a DM, a comment, whatever it is, I would love to hear from you, whoever you are. I want to switch topics now to the World Cup. And I am not much of a soccer/football fan, I'll be very honest. But in my speaking challenge, I decided, and I knew what I was getting into, to dip my toes into the World Cup, just because it's relevant right now. It's trending, it's on, people are talking about it. And I figured my engagement might change a bit if I start putting my 2 cents in. And again, not knowing much about the sport, so I was not married to any of my ideas. But I decided to go into the hydration break debate, because some people I know are very upset about the hydration breaks in the World Cup, and I understand. But I put a video out there basically saying that I didn't get what the big deal was about them, which I grew up playing hockey, which is this loosely similar sport to soccer. I understand the flow of the game, and I understand it interrupts it. And I understand there's a bunch of arguments people tell me about the coach can now strategize, whatever. The amount of hate I got was absolutely crazy. And a lot of people, to be honest with you, said some pretty nasty things about me in the comments, and it didn't faze me at all. And I'll be honest that, earlier on in social media, a lot of my hesitancy to posting was, what are people going to think about it? So people that I know, are they going to support me? Are they going to shit talk me behind my back? I mean, I've had both of that. Some that I find out about, some that I'll never find out about. And then it's like, well, what about people I don't know? Are they going to support me? Are they going to comment nasty shit? And again, I've had both. And the more you do it, the more immune you come to it. I was not personally or emotionally attached to the ideas I presented in that video. So when people are saying a bunch of things about me, it didn't matter, because I didn't care. And then I decided the next day to do a very interesting experiment, where I posted a video taking the opposite side of the arguments, basically saying how I thought they were terrible. And to be honest, I just kind of pulled all of the arguments that people put in the comments from the first video and presented them in the second video. And then I started to get some hate from that side too. Look, I understand that football fans are incredibly passionate. And anyhow, it was just an experiment. I may put some more commentary out about it in the future, but I wanted to just see what happened. And it did give me some good engagement, I will say that. A few other notes about the World Cup. again, someone who doesn't watch a lot of soccer, I think that the commentary in soccer is the best in sports. And actually, the England game just started, and I want to put on as soon as I'm done this, and I missed the build up to it. But if you think about the commentary in sports, just watch how before the game starts, after the anthems, the way that the commentators build up the drama leading towards the start of the match. And I think they do it in such an authentic way that allows the viewer at home to think that they are actually at the stadium and they can feel the buzz. The way that the commentators describe the drama, they describe the emotion in the stadium, they explain to you what's at stake for each team. And as I was saying to one of my best friends, Pete, well, he kind of said it to me and I was about to say it to him, but the commentators in sports, they let the game breathe and they don't talk over the fans. So sometimes when the fans are just kind of telling the story for you, they just let them run and you can hear the chants and everything. And I think that's a really cool part of the game. And the last thing I'll say about the World Cup, and then I'm going to wrap this up, is I went out of my way yesterday to go to the pre-game fan parades in Toronto. Iraq played Senegal. And I'm glad I went. It was so cool. I wish that I maybe got to see more parades because I don't know if I'll get to see them on July 2nd. But the Iraq parade was so neat. And I say this in every positive way, in a micro sense. I actually kind of felt like I was in Baghdad before a soccer match and seeing all the flags and the chants and everyone was just happy to be there. And it was really cool just seeing a totally different culture and how they handled it. And they all seemed like a very happy group of people. And I thought it was a great experience. Then the Senegal parade came. It was significantly smaller. But their chants are obviously different culture. And it was cool to see that too. And then towards the end, the parades kind of met up. And I saw people from the different countries kind of high-fiving and hugging it out. And I think that's what the World Cup is all about. And I think that's what makes soccer such a beautiful game. Again, someone who isn't too into it, but certainly has more of an appreciation for it now. To wrap up, just a couple thoughts that I had. These are going to be random in no particular order. So recently I went out and just met up with a friend to just kind of go for a walk through the park and have some drinks. And the first sight that you see when you link up with a friend is a yawn from them. And I started killing myself laughing. And it's like, you see someone you haven't seen in a few weeks, and the first thing you do is see them yawning. And it's like, okay, so I guess we're not going to be spending much time together today, which is fine. I'm the first person when I'm tired to be like, okay, I'm going to bed. But that was just kind of a funny social interaction. So if you ever go see your friends and the first thing you see is a yawn, it may not be the best sign. But anyway, it was funny. I had a random thought. I say to myself that I honestly and seriously don't care to do politics. I have no aspirations of dipping my toes in. So if I do make comments about politics or world events, I'm going to try my absolute best to keep it objective. So this is just a question that I asked myself recently. I don't even know why this struck me. But think about how governments will tackle a goal and say, okay, let's just say affordable housing. Okay, so if governments tell you they're working on affordable housing, well, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. How do you define that? Where is the goalpost for that goal? How do we know when that goal's been met? Because how do you define affordable housing? What does that even mean? To me, it's just a goal that's never ending. So you can say to your people, oh, hey, we are doing this. But if it never gets done, you can just keep saying that we're doing it and it makes it look like you're doing something. So I don't really know where I'm going with this thought. It was just something I had. If you're listening to this and you got this far, and if this is interesting to you, send me a message, because I was kind of thinking, do the governments and companies or whatever, do they just say they're doing things with these goals that you can't actually define so that they can't ever be challenged on the fact that you never did it? I don't know if I'm making any sense. So please feel free to let me know. And I'm going to actually open my phone because the last thing I'm going to say is, which is actually what I did my speaking challenge video about today. I'm going to go to a DM exchange that I had. I'm going to read it verbatim. That I had with one of my buddies recently who returned to a place that he used to live in a few years back. And I know I've been there too. So for example, in November, I went back to British Columbia for the first time. Actually, it had been 6 years since I had been. And growing up, we did ski trips to the Okanagan. I went to UBC for undergrad. And every time that I go back to Vancouver, I always feel nostalgic because Vancouver is where I started to learn how to be an adult. So every time I step back there, I have these deep feelings that kind of come on. And in my buddy's Instagram story, he said, and I'm paraphrasing a bit, but I'm back to a place I used to call home. And I replied, feeling nostalgic, question mark. He goes, very much so. I just said, when did you live there? He told me when. And I said, so he had lived there, just for context, for 5 years, but it had been quite a few years since he'd lived there. And I said to him, and now you can't stop thinking about how far you've come since you lived there, how you've grown as a person. And what I mean by that, in my own thoughts, is when I go back to Vancouver and I go around campus, which, I mean, geez, was 15 years ago that I started at UBC. And I think about when I moved there as a scared 18-year-old that was worried about so many things and didn't know how to do so many things and didn't know where my life was going. And I feel like I still don't know where my life is going, but I feel like I've accomplished so much. And my buddy replied, that is a good perspective. Thank you for that. I said, that's what it's like for me every time I go somewhere nostalgic. It was like that in Vancouver back in November, thinking about the scared 18-year-old I was when I moved there. And he says, yeah, dude, it definitely feels like that, because honestly, I'm glad you said that, because I didn't think of it like that. And I said, I just knew what you were going through in your head because I've been there. And I think the point I'm trying to make here is nostalgia can be tricky because you can either get caught in the past for too long, or you can use it as a tool to say, yeah, I'll give you a different example. I went to law school in Windsor, and a lot of people like to shit on Windsor, but I had no problem with Windsor. I had a great time there. I haven't been there since my grad. The next time I go back, so it's been 4 years, the next time I go back, it'll feel very nostalgic. And sometimes you can get caught up in, oh, I miss this place, or I miss these times, or I miss when I was younger, I miss the people, whatever it is. And I think that you should feel those emotions, but I think that you can also say to yourself, so for me, when I was in law school and didn't know what my direction was, I mean, when I was there, I didn't think I'd be starting my own practice. I didn't think that I'd be starting my own podcast, whatever it is. I think that you can use it as a tool to say to yourself, wow, I have matured or grown or whatever so much since I lived here. And you can say, yes, I miss this place and it was cool, but I like my life better now. And wow, how far I've come. Or if you look at it this way, the version of me when I was living here would be so proud of what I've accomplished now. This is my first episode, really. Again, I mean, I guess it's technically episode 9 or whatever it is. I don't know where I was going with those thoughts. I don't know if I've retained anyone listening. If any of this ever makes sense to you, again, I'd love for you to hear it. I actually don't know how to end this episode other than saying thank you if you made it this far. And I'm very excited to see where this can go, because quite frankly, I know I can be excellent at this, but it's going to take a lot of reps. I'm going to have to do this for many years. I'm going to have to do 500 episodes before I even started to get decent. And I can't rely on other people's schedules all the time to come on as guests, even though it is primarily what I wanted to do. I don't care to do too many solo episodes, but it's just what I'm going to have to do to get started. And I'm happy that I'm here. I'm happy that you're here. I appreciate you listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.